Hello, everyone. This is Ariana Campbell with Boomer Consulting, and today I am joined by Chris Barnes, Chief Technology Officer at Howard LLP, and they're located in Dallas, Texas. Chris, I'm so glad that you're able to join me today.
Me too. So nice to be here.
So I was really excited to see that you were featured in the 2020 summer edition of Toggle Magazine. And with the issue, it's like a 10-page spread that really focused on some of the great things that are going on in your firm. And I'd love to take a little bit of time to just dive into some of the things that were mentioned in that article and just learn a little bit more about the things that you're focusing on. So when you think about the article, what were some of the things that really stood out to you in that piece and in those conversations?
Well, it happened at a time when I was actually going through kind of my own personal/professional transition in mindset anyway. And so when we were doing the interview process for that, a lot of our discussion was less about technology and more about the firm and kind of a holistic view instead of being zeroed in talking about cybersecurity and technology. And so I originally thought they were going to say, okay, never mind, we don't want to do this piece with you because we're talking to the technology leaders and we're not talking much technology. But as we got into it and we spoke more about Lean Six, and that's what we were going through as a firm at that time, it just made sense to keep going with that topic.
So you said that the firm was going through Lean Six Sigma. Tell me a little bit about that and how it unfolded in the interview in the article.
So I think at that time we had just gotten the go ahead for the projects to do with you all, and so we were still in learning mode, or I was still in learning mode, and I just kept trying to explain to him, the interviewer, first of all, what it is, and not from a manufacturing standpoint. And it's one of those topics that if you get me talking about it, I'll just kind of go on and on and on and not know when to shut up. And so, like I said, somehow he was very receptive to that. And next thing you know, I'm teaching an interviewer how to understand Lean Six in an accounting environment.
Well, and I know that we've had conversations going back to last year on things around Lean Six Sigma, and you had done a ton of research before we actually connected with your firm and had the opportunity and honor to be able to help with process improvement. But what attracted you to Lean Six Sigma? What kind of clicked for you with Lean Six Sigma?
So from a technology standpoint, like going all the way back to when I first got into it, my focus has been projects. So project management in a technology environment using what's called the system development lifecycle. It's now turned into the software development lifecycle, but it's basically the process of starting with a need and assessing the needs of the client in that aspect and moving all the way through to a solution at the end. And when I first got here in whatever year that was, I think 2006, I had always asked, is there a way to apply project management to accounting, right? Because there are clear steps and there's a clear deliverable. Why can't we do project management? And it's one of those things that we get on the radar, then off the radar, then on the radar, then off the radar. Fast forward about a decade and seeing kind of the turnover and the stress and just how people deal with tax season, the 3 or 4 times a year. It just seemed like there had to be something better. I know I used to joke for the first 10 years I was with my wife, from the time she was my girlfriend all the way on up until fairly recently, everything we planned to do had to happen after October 15th. Mm-hmm. And luckily we got engaged after October 15th. We got married after October 15th. Both of our kids were born after October 15th. That was more luck than planning, but it was just like anytime somebody was doing something and it was going to be major and we were going to go out of town or whatever, it had to be after October 15th. And fast forwarding to probably about 2 years ago, I think was the first time your Greenbelt email somehow, some way it came through into my inbox. And I think you guys were doing a class at Ohio State University. And I was like, ooh, maybe I could go to that and go to an Ohio State football game. I've never been in a game in their stadium, right? And turned out not to be a year for me to do that. I think we had another trip or something we had to do, but I just kind of forgot about it. And then about a year or so after that, as I was going through another degree program, basically, I hit my kind of project management refresher course to see what's new and learn about stuff that I may have not learned about, 10 years or so ago, the last time I'd been in school. And it made me think about this again. And so I started just searching, project management accounting firms, settled on Lean Six and Agile, and just randomly searched my inbox. And that's when the email from the year before came up. It's like, duh, right? And so everything happens when it's supposed to. And so from there, I started working with one of our partners here, Holly. She wasn't a partner yet. And we were both trying to solve the same problem. And then the next thing you know, there are other people in the partner group who are interested in solving these problems. And so things just kind of snowballed as we all put our heads together and had that moment where we understood a need for this sort of change. We didn't know what the change needed to be. And the answer was in my inbox for 2 years.
So what were some of the key problems that you were trying to solve with Lean Six Sigma process improvement?
So I don't know that it was that far thought of as far as the process improvement piece. We just knew that we were at capacity. Like, you could just tell that mentally, physically, we were at capacity. We had plenty of technology. And as you discovered and taught us during the Lean Six process, we just weren't using it right. But we weren't using it right because we hadn't adjusted our processes to match the technology. So all the wonderful innovation that's happened over the past 20 plus years in accounting software and all that sort of stuff, it didn't matter because we were just trying to basically bolt it on to old processes that actually made things worse. And so for us, we were just looking for a way that we could figure out how to increase capacity in the firm so that people weren't so dead basically every cyclical tax season. And as we learned from you through the process, that's when we started understanding process improvement and how to think about it and how to approach everything in the accounting firm.
And it's interesting that pain point of knowing that you were at capacity, what led you to process improvement, as opposed to saying, that we need to improve our processes, how should we go about doing that? So I think it's really interesting the path that you all took to get to Lean Six Sigma and working on a project. As you're kind of looking back over the past several months as you've been going through the experience, what do you think are some of the biggest wins that you've seen?
Well, from the feedback, it's definitely the pools and how I haven't seen the email that comes through that says, hey, I'm available to help with work. I don't think I've seen one of those come through. Now, maybe they've gotten smarter and just sent it to the tax group instead of all staff, but my understanding is they haven't been going out and they shouldn't be. But on top of that, you just have people have the freedom to come in and find work if they don't already have something directly assigned to them. And so particularly it's helping and going to help our intern first, second year people so that they can grow instead of being so dialed in kind of in one area all the time. They can actually have a breadth of knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. So your background, as you mentioned earlier, is all in IT. So how did that play into, the process improvement initiative that you helped to lead in the firm?
Well, it actually goes back to, so we have a firm meeting each year. We have a couple, and I can't remember, I think it was probably 2 years ago. I was really excited. We were making this transition in our accounting software. We were moving away from the server and moving in the cloud. And, from my perspective of not actually being the one doing the work, like all I saw was, okay, this is what all of these other firms are doing and saying, and this is what obviously the vendor is saying about how great it is for us to be moving the cloud and how it's going to make your lives easier. Well, about 6 months into that transition, I realized that people's lives weren't any easier. Like nothing was getting better. It seemed like things were getting worse. And it was like, okay, well, why? Like, why are we not getting the benefit out of these Ferraris that we have in software, supposedly, And that just started a bunch of questions and discussions. And then again, going back to Holly, she was the first person that sat down with me and showed me one piece of the tax process. And it was the last piece of the process where the return is done and she was just trying to get it out the door. And it was a simple return. And I timed it and it took 8 minutes. And I was like, okay, so we have all of this software again that it should be doing a lot of this stuff for you. And we have all of these expensive employees who are sitting here taking 8 minutes per return to do something that either the software should be able to do or somebody else should be able to do who isn't as expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And so that just started, like I said, it all just snowballed. Like one question would lead to the next one. And is there a solution for this? What can we do? And is there a software, my brain obviously, is there a software solution for this? Well, no, there's not, because of the way that this process works. It's not a software solution. It's a process solution. Mm-hmm. And Holly actually is very process aware, if you want to say it that way, where, she sees something and it's like, this is so inefficient and it's driving me nuts. So between like her brain and my brain and how we start asking questions and finding answers, ultimately it led to, okay, teaching her project management in about an hour and a half as best it could be done. And then moving from there to introducing her actually to you and teaming up and finding a way to get your help here with our firm.
Yeah, and I think you, obviously, being in your IT role, you see so many of the different processes in the firm, not the ins and outs necessarily, but where they're intersecting with the technology. And I thought that many of your insights during the project of being able to connect the dots from that outside perspective was really valuable. We often tell firms that, when you're thinking about what roles to really elevate as process improvement leaders, to make sure that IT is in the list of that considerations because of the visibility that they have, but also the technology knowledge and the fact that they can bring that outside perspective from inside the firm.
That's correct.
So what would you say have been, I don't know, maybe your top 2 or 3 lessons learned as you've gone through the process improvement experience that you've had so far?
I don't know if this counts as multiple or one, but it's really been the people aspect. So even with Lean 6, we talk about people, processes, and technology. It's the same thing we say in information security, right? It's about people, processes, and technology. And it's very easy to focus on the technology, and it's very easy to focus on the process. But the people are really the most important part, not just because of value, but because of how they can either help the project or derail it, right? And in information security, it's the same thing where some people are fond of saying like the end user is the weakest link, and I actually hate that saying because I think that they are your more like your last line of defense, which makes them your most important piece. And so there are ways to get around the technology aspects of information security. There are ways to get around the process aspect of people do it all the time because they don't like whatever the business has set. But that's people getting around them both, right?
Yeah.
And so the same thing applies here, where you have to be able to teach people and work with people and let people learn, which is kind of hard. It's been hard for me anyway over the years, because it's like, well, don't you just see it? You know, it's like you said, there's things that I saw, but it's like, well, you have to understand everyone can't see it the same way you do yet. You have to bring them there. You're 15 minutes. They're 15 minutes late to your movie, you know? So I don't know if that's multiple things or if that's just one, but it's a really huge one.
Yeah, that's a really valuable takeaway. And it seems like there's some good momentum around, you know, process improvement, looking at how you're leveraging resources, how you're using the technology. How do you plan to keep the momentum going in the firm?
Well, I think first and foremost, like, we have an awesome team. And I think I told you once before how it's been really fun to be on the group emails that go back and forth and watch the team think through an issue or a question. And the same as when they came and met with you a couple of weeks ago, it was just really fun to see how everyone has grown from, you know, day one to where, as a group, they're able to think through things. And, like, you know, there's really not much for me to say other than go team, right? You know, you're doing good. It's awesome. And cheerleader, and it seems kind of corny sometimes, but it's like, seriously, I wish that everyone understood that this change is part of the foundation that we're building on for the success of the firm in the future. And it's a major piece of that foundation. So as far as keeping things going, a lot of it is the team that's working on this first project, just how infectious their excitement has been to the rest of the firm. There's been enough questions within the firm about, when am I next? When's it my turn? You know, when's it my group's turn? That we went ahead and created our a committee, our steering committee for Lean Six. That happened faster probably than it may have, as far as with the partners and all that sort of stuff. I think it happened faster than it might have because of the fact that so many people are like, when's it my turn? So we have that. And then we have a great leadership team. So, you know, it took a little bit of teaching, but like I said, that's important anywhere. And our partner group, like, they get it. And so now it's just a matter of continuing to run with it and not taking the pedal off the gas, but knowing when to go slow so we can go fast, all those sorts of things.
That's fantastic. And I know, kind of as a last comment, that you're also working on your Lean Six Sigma Green Belt certification. So it's great to see you really formalizing your knowledge in the process improvement role, because that will contribute to the momentum as well.
Yep, 3 of us that were on that first project went through the training, and the 3 of us that went through the training are also on the steering committee. That's
great. So you're going to be able to take and apply that knowledge and keep focusing on continuous improvement within the firm. That is fantastic. Well, Chris, I really appreciate you taking the time to share some of your story with me today. Again, it was fantastic being able to see you featured there in the Toggle article. And it's also just been a pleasure working with your firm and seeing your process improvement and continuous improvement growth. So thank you so much again for joining today.
Thank you. I'm sure we'll be working together a lot more.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Thank you. Bye.